Welcome to It's Not Really About Dance, a podcast on all of the things we're learning about raising healthy, happy, and wholesome kids and teenagers in today's world through the context of competitive dance. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Beth, and we believe that competitive kids' activities are about way more than performance or awards. They're about teaching resilience, humility, confidence, and heart. Each episode, we'll use the context of dance to dive into real talk, practical tips, and stories to inspire you to parent with purpose. Hello, everybody, and happy midsummer, I would say. We're right smack dab in the middle of summer as we're recording this. How's it going for you, Sarah?
It's good. I hate that summer's half over already, though. I feel like we're just now easing into it and are wrapping up our camps and stuff, but it's been great. A slower pace, trying not to melt. How about you?
Yeah, same. We're, staying busy as we always do, but with fun stuff.
Yes. Yeah. It's been nice.
So, well, today we are going to be in this Caring for Your Own Heart series. These tend to be our most listened to, and I think it's because a lot of the people who are listeners to our podcast are just people who are leading and raising kids and realize that we have to care for ourselves in the process as we do that. And so we have a few episodes already in this series. There's one on managing our own expectations, one on balancing rest and work, and one on handling tryouts and auditions as a leader or a parent. And so if you haven't listened to those and those sound interesting to you, I highly recommend going back and checking them out. But today, our topic is going to be on adult friendships in the context of kids' activities.
It's hard to make friends as an adult.
Yes.
Not like a kid when you're automatically friends or just like together a lot. We're friends. It's trickier to navigate sometimes.
Yeah. And we're hoping to talk a bit today about both as a parent and as someone who maybe leads in one of these contexts.
Yeah, that's a different lens to think about it from, but I think people will relate to that, hopefully. Yeah. So we're going to talk today about how we made friends when we first dove into this competitive dance thing, because I think for both of us, Beth, you really didn't know anybody. And when I started, I only really knew you. So how that played out for us. And then kind of the parameters we use now as we're maintaining those friendships and meeting new people as they join the team. So Beth, what was it like making friends when you first signed your girls up for competition team and dove in that first season?
Yeah, it was interesting because, we're very entrenched in our church community. And so I think at that stage of life when my kids were young, that's where most of our family's friendships were. Were like our small group and the people we worshiped with and families that were like kind of at the same life stage as us. And so it was like my husband and I had our friends and they all had their kids. And that's who we hung out with on the weekends, like our friends and their kids. But as my oldest started getting involved in competitive dance, I realized we were going to be pulled away from that. I remember the very first time, I've shared this on a previous episode, when I took my oldest to get like a taste of what a competitive weekend was. It was a weekend of a big sporting event in our town. And my husband and all of our other friends were going to this sporting event. And I was like, I'm leaving with my 7-year-old to go to another city and dive into this context where we don't really know anybody. I had met a couple of people. And of course, the rest is history. I mean, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know a bit of our story. And we started getting more and more entrenched in this world that obviously takes a lot of our time. And it was just interesting because it was obviously pulling me away from some of the time that we'd spent with some of our other friends. But my daughter was making these deep friendships on her team. And as a default, you go away for the weekend and you meet the other families, but these are people I don't have history with at all. And I just remember kind of walking into our first competitive weekend that next year, just trying to survive, and learning the ropes. And one other mom was really kind and invited us the first night to come to dinner with them. Don't think I had ever seen her before. To this day, we are very close friends. But she had 2 daughters on the team, and they invited us to eat dinner with them, and we just kind of got to know them a little bit over dinner. and she's the one who smuggled me some bacon when I didn't
First bacon.
sufficiently pack for the weekend the food that my kid needed. And so a veteran parent that was on the team just sort of including us and folding us into the flock, that was huge for me. But then also there were a couple of other parents who were starting fresh just like we were, and our kids were the same age, so we were kind of bringing them to the same place at the same time, and there's a lot of waiting around, and so we just started hearing each other's stories. And I was blown away that very first weekend. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast before, but it's just a huge part of our story and getting entrenched in this, that there were a couple of these parents that have lived some real life. I mean, some very hard things in their life that they've overcome, and like we all have. And in that time, just sitting around in the hotel while our kids were taking dance convention classes, I end up like praying with people and like just hearing their stories about things that do not relate to dance at all, but are real. And we just, I don't know if I got lucky, but there's this cluster of families that they have dancers my oldest daughter's age. And to this day, we are all very close. And I think it's because we developed friendships not from superficial things that were like outside of this, but also it's not really about just our kids and their talent or what they're doing, but we just sort of were planted in the same context with them. And we're willing to talk about real stuff and have gotten to be real friends. And it's been beautiful to watch over the years the way our kids have grown from age 8 to they're all 15, 16 now. And we've gotten to watch them and their arc of highs and lows through all the years as they've grown as humans and as dancers, and just there's a beautiful support system there in that context. And I'm sure we'll talk more today about just every age group, because I have 3 girls. The vibe with the different clusters of parents is a little different with each age group. Not good or bad. It's just a little bit of a different
personality mix.
Different personality mix. Yeah, totally. And so that makes a difference too. But I just remember just being so shocked and surprised that I didn't know these people at all, and I didn't form them friendships other than the fact that our kids were friends first. And it just has really kind of played out to be a beautiful story for us. So, yeah. What about you? What's that been like, kind of acclimating yourself to friendships in this context?
Yeah, I don't think I came into it as blindly as you did, because you were about a year ahead of me and you kind of helped pull me into the fold. But same thing with 2 dancers. I have 2 kind of circles of friends, and there is a lot of overlap in that. But you were sort of the introducer to a lot of these same people that you're talking about. And I think I just found sometimes when I'm in a new situation like that around a lot of people that I don't know, feel like I try to read the room of like, how much does this new person want me to talk to them? And at what point am I being irritating? Because I do like to talk, and I am kind of a naturally pretty open person and will talk about things. But sometimes I worry that that is not what other people want to do off the bat. If someone else is a little bit more afraid to be vulnerable with somebody kind of new. So I think it was good having like a bridge that you were between some of those people. But same, I was just really surprised in those hours on a Sunday afternoon when everyone is kicked out of their hotel. I've talked about how this is like my favorite part of a whole dance convention competition weekend, is those times when we're just sitting around and talking together, because I found that people really wanted to know me deeply and I cared about knowing them. And of course, all those conversations started with surface level, like talking about our kids and their experience and dance and kind of how the season was going for them and things like that. But even some moms of older girls kind of coming and sitting with us in those times, we're just like sitting around in a hotel lobby, just like getting parenting advice and hearing them kind of speak into me as a mom and things that I'm walking through with my kids and parenting very early in the relationship or friendship. Sort of me getting to see like, oh wow, these these people care about me just because we're in this context together, and they care about my daughter because we dance together. So it really felt like a family. And like you said, we might be really lucky. I assume a lot of studios are like this. I don't know. But I just was always met with such warm and kind and welcoming people. And then that really helped me bridge the gap of like, I don't have to feel weird about that kind of stuff. And then I can extend that same warmness to new people that join our team, whether they're coming in with older dancers because we've had that, or new families that jump in that are a little bit younger. That has just been a really neat thing to have some of those deep friendships. And we live in a town that is not huge. So there is some crossover between the friend circles. I feel like some of the dance mom friends that I maybe initially met that way now also go to our church. Or since our kids have gotten older and they're at different schools than they were in elementary school, like I'll see them at school functions sometimes too. So there's a little bit more interaction than just at the dance studio. But I think jumping into competition team is really what helped me make a lot of the adult friendships that I have now, because post COVID, our studio, we just wait outside and enter and dismiss from the parking lot. So parents don't really go in the studio, but before competition team, I didn't have an opportunity to just chat with other moms. And my daughter, especially my older one, because she was about 8 when we joined the team, she would come home talking about people from dance that I didn't know who they were. I had no clue who these kids were, but I knew she talked about them all the time. And finally, in that first competition season, those first few events, I was able to match up like, oh, you're such and such's mom. Okay, I've heard so much about your daughter. And that was just like a really easy intro to a conversation. Because it was always reciprocal. They were matching me up with my daughter's name that they had heard at their house too. So it just opened a lot of doors to more friendships that we certainly would not have encountered otherwise. And like you said, really deep, meaningful friendships that go well beyond just a competition weekend. It's a really cool
Right.
thing.
Yeah, and it's like there's something about like it's almost like we've been to war together.
Yes.
Not in a negative way, but we've done a project together. That might be a better way of saying it. Like I feel this way even in the ministry I lead. I've found like people that serve become such good friends more than people that just come and attend church, because they do a project together. Like they're on mission together, they're doing something together. And I think us leading our kids through all that's involved in this and having somebody else in the trenches that gets it just forges some friendships. Like even you and I mean, we were friends before this, but we're closer friends now.
For sure.
Because it's like we're not only seeing each other in our other contexts that we were friends, but we're also going to war together.
Yeah. I mean, it's inevitable. Teaching is like this too. You're bonded with those people when you face hard things together. So while it's not the end of the world, when you're stressed in a costume quick change and your kid is snippy at you because she's in a rush and in a hurry because she sees everybody else in her group is ready and you're still trying to fix a flyaway on her hair, that is the kind of thing that I see that when other moms are on the receiving end, and it doesn't feel great, but it's a stressful environment to be in. I mean, we would be lying if we said it was all rainbows and butterflies all the time. It can be stressful. So facing those things together and knowing that, like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Or if, I have to clean Chick-fil-A sauce off of someone's white costume 2 minutes before they go on stage because their mom had to go run an errand really fast. Like we just handle those things for each other. So I trust and know that if I'm not in the dressing room and my kid has a crisis, someone else will swoop in and help them, just like I would do for their kids too. So there's a deep level of trust there that comes from these friendships.
Absolutely. And it was funny, I saw a really cute picture that a friend of mine that's at another studio actually shared with me that I thought, this is brilliant. Their kids had a quick change. And so what they did was they passed all the kids to the mom on the right. So that like when they were having to switch hair, because you know how kids are with their own parents.
Oh, yes.
When there's a stressful situation, and sometimes it just takes somebody else's parent.
Mm-hmm.
But when you watch someone else love your kid, it connects you in a way. And so I think like that has built trust. It's like it's like vertical friendships, like where they're like pouring into each other's kids, but then also horizontal connected with each other.
Yes.
So really, really cool.
I love that my oldest daughter, like our teenagers have started doing this with their friends' moms. And instead of, we're in the South. So I grew up always calling my friends' parents Miss and then their first name, but they all call me Mommy Sarah. Like all of her friends call me Mommy Sarah. And I love it. And like my oldest daughter calls her friends' moms Mommy and then their first name. And it's like it all comes from that kind of stuff, like knowing that you're deeply cared about by your friends' parents too. It's such a neat and cool thing to have in your life.
And they need other people other than their parents pouring into them that they have
Yes.
that trust in, because they might just connect with them in ways that they feel uncomfortable with us on. I
For
mean,
sure.
my oldest daughter keeps asking you to teach her to drive instead of me. I laughed the other day when y'all were leaving somewhere and she asked if she could drive your car and you were like, no.
Well, I would let her drive my car, but I was like, I don't know if your mom would want you to drive my car. She can drive my car.
I don't care. I
Okay,
just
next
think
time she asks, I'm going to say yes.
you are going to be the one sitting in the passenger seat, like stressing to no end while this is happening.
I have zero experience with a teenage driver, so maybe this is the adult version of not getting frustrated with your mom trying to do a quick change. Like maybe I need to practice parenting through driving on not my kid.
And then next year,
And then you can take my teenager when she turns 15. We'll trade.
do
might
we
be onto
want
something.
to do this? I don't know.
This is either a great idea or a terrible idea.
Right. When both of our cars are wrecked by the end of it.
Insurance.
Good times, good times.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, so let's talk a little bit though about, just kind of parameters that we have and how we decide which friendships to lean into in these contexts. Because there are a lot of people and a lot of different types of people that you interact with when you're in these competitive contexts. So just to know how a friendship is worth leaning into. I know one thing that I kind of learned early on was I found a few other parents who I noticed making some of the same choices I was about what to say yes and what to say no to along the way. And one thing I'm really grateful that I did is with my oldest, there was one other kid and that kid's parent. We noticed that there were like other kids kind of their age that were opting into some things that we might have opted out of. And then there were other kids their age that were opting out of things that we were opting into. And we noticed a consistency with kind of how we were both approaching those types of things. And so it became at first just unspoken that like if I had like a little bit of I'm not sure if we want to go for this or not, I would check with that mom and we would just sort of collectively decide, you know what, if we say no to this, at least our kid won't be the only one. They won't feel alone. Like
Yeah.
they'll have a friend that's also not doing it. And vice versa. If we go for this, even though not everybody is doing it, we don't overthink like, am I trying to prove something or be like ahead of everybody else? No, it's totally just, it's the right choice for us and we're
Yeah.
going to both do this. So we kind of got on the same page with that. And then over time, we ultimately just reached a point where it became our sort of mode of operation. And we did it because honestly, already the studio was kind of aligning our kids. If that makes sense. So I don't think this works. Like it probably wouldn't have worked for you and I to necessarily do because our kids were at slightly different stages and even the opportunities that were being given to them
weren't the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So it works if there's somebody that like they have made a friend with and then you can kind of form a bond with this parent on the like more parenting things. So that's not like your like friendship that you chatted up with kind of thing. But as far as the like a friend that aligns with you and how you're going to parent through the competitive activity, I think that was something I was really glad that I did early on with my oldest. And then I ended up doing it with my second one too. So when my second kid we started having things to opt in or out of. I noticed there was another mom and she had not done this before, but I just kind of told her, I said, hey, I notice our kids are being given a lot of the same opportunities. And like with my oldest, it's really helped me to have a friend that we kind of say, if I'm feeling hesitation about this, I'll check. And if you're doing it, maybe we'll just go for it.
Right.
But if you're also feeling hesitation, maybe we can together opt out of this kind of
Mhm.
thing. It's just truly like you got to say yes to things and no to things, and your kid can feel like they're being left behind or being looked at weird at times with an activity that's so about advancement and pushing. And so having some of those type of people you're aligned with is really
Mhm.
nice. Honestly, if I'm honest, my third kid, I don't know that I have someone that we do that with necessarily, but I feel confident because my older two I've sort of forged the way with.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you have a kid that's my kid's age and you want to like
Partner up.
like if you value the same things that we do, let's do
Yeah.
it together. But anyway,
Yeah, I definitely have that with both of my girls and with different people than you have with yours, which I think is really cool. But the
Mhm.
way I sort of figured that out, and I never really did name it with any of these people the way that you did. I just sort of realized that they were checking in with me before deciding on things, and they were people that I had gotten to know through the course of competition seasons. And you witness people parenting a lot in those moments. I know people have seen me comfort my kids when they were upset. They've seen me discipline my kids when they were not doing what they were supposed to be doing and acting foolish. And so it's just kind of being aware of your surroundings, I think, in those moments and knowing who you align with in your parenting style and your values. And so those people just sort of naturally fell into place for me with both of my kids. And when I found myself in that situation, I immediately knew who I wanted to reach out to and ask, like, what are you guys doing on this? And I noticed that they were doing that to me already too, which is how I knew we were in agreement on a lot of things. So it really is more of a barometer for me as a mom and the decisions I make in the realm of dance versus anything else. Just kind of keeps me
Sure.
in check for someone that I trust.
And it's not like a universal either. I mean, especially I think as they get older, they get more and more individualized
Yes.
in what their things are. I know, like, when we've done summer intensives, we really have chosen those regardless of what anybody else is doing. Like,
Mhm.
we are like, what does my kid need? What is right for them? And sometimes we then find out one of those people aligned with us is also doing the same thing we are. And
Right.
we're like, great,
Excellent.
that worked out. But never once have I like pre-planned any of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like, so it's not like it plays out universally in everything we
No.
do. It's just more of like a person that you feel like values the same thing you do, that you have to check in on things. And it keeps me from posting things in big group texts and it becoming like a whole thing.
Right. I also really try to balance respect for my kids in this too. Like my older daughter, just kind of wanting to pull back a tiny bit from dance this upcoming season. She just has wanted a little bit more time for homework and school and just figuring out her time management skills and things in this. And so I had a really cool opportunity to talk to another mom of an older kid while we were like standing around waiting for them to come out after our spring recital. And the mom kind of was checking in with me and asking, how the season had been. And I had mentioned that. And she was able to say, oh, yes, my daughter did that a few years ago, about the same age. And it was totally fine because I had some concerns about her getting behind or if she, changes her mind in a year or two and is all in again. Like, what does that look like for her and her place within her company and people getting ahead? And that mom was really able to speak a lot of peace into me about that and knowing that that is a totally normal and okay thing for her to be walking through. So even if it's not checking in on what activity we're going to participate in, just kind of like the developmental milestone things,
Mhm.
a check in on, am I making the right choice for my child in this moment, and kind of validating or not those things as we're parenting through that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's another great one. Still kind of in this same category of like parents to walk alongside type
Mhm.
friendships, but having someone who's a step ahead of you. I think that's
Yes.
another valuable person to have as a friend on your team. So you got your friend that you like, okay, our kids are in the same spot
You're in the trenches
and
with.
we're going to kind of use each other as bounce off of like what we're doing. The next one is great to have is somebody who's a step ahead of you or a few
Mhm.
steps ahead of you that you can glean some wisdom from. And I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for parents of kids who largely their kids are 4, 5, 6 years older than my
Mhm.
oldest. So they've truly been through the whole phase that my kid's in. And it's someone that I look to and I say, I like how your kid turned out.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And like, how did you get there?
Yes.
Give me some wisdom.
Mhm.
And I think I need to offer that to younger parents as well. But it's so sweet when I have the ones that are above ahead of me and the ones coming behind
Yeah.
me because it makes me aware of the things that are probably that I'm doing that have been silly or are silly.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
when you see someone who's fresh in and innocently is asking questions about things that do not matter
Right.
and how we can be kind and like be friends to them and show them the way, but also just calm them down if there are things that aren't worth worrying about in the
Yes.
same way that those parents who are ahead of me do that for me.
Well, because when it's the first time through, it all feels big and heavy and scary when you don't know. I mean, you just don't know what you don't know, and so, yeah, I like getting to be that for younger dancers too. It's a neat thing. I think that I'm kind of like just now stepping into that a little bit with my youngest being the age that she is. Now that she's I still look at her as one of the youngest people on the team, but that is absolutely not true anymore. But having more of those younger parents come in, especially at the start of the season, just trying to be aware of that and be intentional about meeting people and getting to know them and forming new friendships in that space, not just the people who I've already got friendships with or people who I know are a step ahead, but looking back, so to speak, and forming new friendships that I can be helpful to those people too.
And you can tell who trusts you and who leans in and who is like not interested in your advice.
We talked
Like,
about people of peace, I think, recently on an
yes.
episode, but yes, you can tell who those people are pretty quickly.
Or people who are just wanting your wisdom, but not in a sometimes people want to know because they're trying to, like, beat the system somehow
Mhm.
and, like, can often find themselves disappointed in me that I don't have, like, a hack to beat the system.
Well, I think it's easy when people see you have really successful kids, that it's easy to think, okay, it's from the same thought process as the I like who your kid turned out to. It's like I like the opportunities that your child is getting. What did you do to get them there? And it's like I nothing. I didn't do it. They did it. It's their own hard work and talent. Like it's not you.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's easy. Everybody wants an easy fix for things. So
Sure.
they think that that's the answer.
And I think, like, when we were earlier on and I've gotten more comfortable with this, but it's funny, though. I'm willing to kinda reach out to the younger parents and feel them out and figure out who the people of peace are because people did that for me, and I was kind of intimidated by it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, like, there were these girls that were, like, teenage dancers when we first started, and these parents seemed to, like, have their whole life together, and I noticed some of them, like, coming and wanting to know me, and their kids, like, wanting to know my kids, and I just remember being a little bit intimidated by it.
Absolutely. I was
Like,
too.
I was just like, "How do you know me? Why do you care about me?" Like, that kinda thing, like, "Why does it matter? Why don't you just I'm just here to y'all can do your thing and I can do my thing," and I didn't even realize the value of that multi-generational family that develops on
Yes.
these teams, and once I let myself lean into it and realized that it was genuine and that people just really care and want to know each other, then it just, like, cracked open a whole world for us to just feel like we have family.
Yeah, I think just in our culture and in regular day-to-day life, that is not the norm. So when you experience that, your knee-jerk reaction is suspicion.
Yeah, and I don't even know that I was suspicious. I think I was just a little bit like, I don't know, maybe just like self-conscious in my
Sure.
own ways, like I'm not worthy,
Or
you know?
I think what I thought was like, can you tell how much I am struggling? Like, do I
Yeah.
look as clueless as I feel and you feel like I need rescuing? And that felt a little embarrassing, which
Yeah, maybe some
probably
of
was
that.
not 100% untrue either. But yes, it did make me self-conscious about it.
Sure. And so, yeah, but I think it's a beautiful thing when we can give ourselves to that, multi-generation. And I love it and I'm like now that I have like teenage and on down, there's one mom who her daughter is I think 5 or 6 years older than my daughter and just really took my daughter as her little friend, and would drive her to school some days and talk to her. It was just really sweet. And this lady had 2 dancers, and they're both graduated, moved on, far. And I saw this mom come up, and it was like shortly after having a surgery, came to the Nutcracker
Aw.
without a kid in it. And I just remember going up to this person and just being like, "You came?" And she's like, this is the world we lived in for so long, and this is our family and and even though my kids have moved on, I don't want to miss being a part of it." And I'm like,
Yeah.
I will 100% be exactly like that. I know
Oh,
I
yes.
will.
That is, like, one of my favorite things about any performances that we do, competition weekends, Nutcracker, spring show. Like, of course, yes, I want to watch my kids, but I equally enjoy watching all these other kids perform that I know and care about deeply. It's like they're all important. So, yes, I will be that same person when my kids have long graduated. I will still be showing up.
Yeah, so I think, like, pushing outside of our comfort zones and being willing to just be known and be a
Mhm.
part of the whole family, it will pay off
It
over
does.
time. Even though you feel a little bit like it would be easier to just show up and drop your kid off and do your own thing and, like, peace out, go shopping, do the thing. Like, it's so life-giving to have those connections in those kinds of places.
Yes, I really have had to be intentional about when we have downtime, and especially, like, when we have a hotel room. It is so much easier for me to just go back to my room and get some work done or, go ahead and take a shower and get on with my day and go do something fun with my mom or my husband or whoever's there. But even like, I know you do this too. After the initial morning drop off at a convention, there always tends to be a group of people that go get coffee together and sit and talk for a little while. And while that is not the most efficient use of time, I have had some of the best, deepest, most valuable conversations in our little coffee chats after a early morning convention class drop off that I would not trade for the world. So I really try to like get my radar on of like who can I ask to go get coffee with me if no one is already doing that and not being weird about that or thinking that I'm bothering someone or inserting myself where I'm not wanted. I mean, I don't ever feel like that has been the situation and I love that time with people.
And I think the more that we do this also is the more that I've learned that, like, it's not about dance. We're not talking about
No.
anything related
No.
to dance usually. I mean, like, occasionally it's like, "Oh, yeah, we just got an email. What is it?" And, like, that is, like, 10% of the
If
conversation,
that.
you know?
Yeah.
But so much of, like, our kids happen to be dancing together. Now let's know each other for who we are and what we enjoy and what we do and how we live and how we can support each other. And we're in the same place and we have
Yeah.
time to see each other. So it just makes sense to find the people that you trust and enjoy being with.
And I know I love this term that you taught me, which is vulnerability hangover. And that sometimes when you come out of those conversations, you can feel a little bit weird. Like, did I overshare? Did I weird these people out? Like, do they think something that I'm crazy? You have that hangover after being vulnerable with people, especially new people. But like, the more times we've had these conversations, and I know that that is not the case, and I don't feel like that about them at all, that it just becomes this really safe place to talk about what you're going through or what you're struggling with. And like you said, have people pray for you in that moment. And it's just such a cool, unique thing that I have only found in this particular sphere of my life.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just because like we said, you can't do anything else.
Right.
You're like sort of stuck here with these people. And so you don't have as many of the distractions of your everyday pulling you out of the way. So there's space to get to know people.
Hmm.
That must be what it is. But I do think that I do have to have some parameters for like certain people that I might not go as deeply with. And I think probably the most obvious one for me, if I get around a group of other parents in our dance context and all they're talking about is dance, I'm like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Like, cause it's really like, it's not what it's about for me. And
Right.
this is just personal. And some people might just totally geek out about that stuff. And that's who you do want to lean
Hmm.
into. But I have just found that if that is the main topic of conversation, it can sometimes push some boundaries of like where our place is to be involved in that
Yeah.
context. and maybe some questioning of authority and just all kinds of things that I just don't find are healthy for me to be involved in. And so if as I'm getting to know people, they mainly just want to talk about dance, then I can be friends and casual with them, but they're probably not going to end up being my closest friends in the
Yeah.
context.
Well, that just comes down to, I think, when you are having conversations like that with people and kind of feeling them out and getting to know them, it's when I walk away from this conversation, how am I going to feel? Like, am I going to feel heard and seen and cared about? Or did this person kind of plant some seeds of doubt and questioning that I wouldn't have had otherwise and don't really need and isn't helpful? And I'm same as you. Like, that is just not something that I want to carry at any point. So it's helpful for me to steer clear of that kind of stuff.
Sure. So that's a good segue into I heard this on another dance podcast, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but someone shared they actually shared this in the context of talking about junior age dancers, like 9 to 12-year-olds where friendships are such the thing. But this helps me as an adult as well, so I'm just going to
Absolutely.
share it.
It's
So
such good stuff.
yeah. And like we can help our kids make friends in this way, but it also can help us have a filter that like there's a matrix of like level of trust and level of compatibility. So if you picture like, like when you were in middle school math and you had to plot points on the X
An
and the Y
XY
axis.
axis.
Yes. And so you're going like higher on one horizontal axis and a vertical axis. So it's like you have your vertical axis, which is trust. And so you have certain people that you have a high level of trust with, and certain people you have a low level of trust with. And then there's the horizontal axis of compatibility. There's certain people that you have a lot in common with, and certain people that you don't really have anything in common with. And so as we make friends, we are subconsciously reading where people are in those ways. And so someone who has the highest level of trust and the highest level of compatibility with us is going to be our truest friend. Like I would say like you and I would be in
For
this
sure.
type of category with each other.
Yes.
Like we feel like we have a lot in common. We enjoy being together, but we also know that we can trust each other and we can share some things in confidence that would not be shared on the podcast or with
anyone else.
or with other people. It was funny. I was actually just last week, I was at kids camp, like church kids camp with our 4th through 6th graders, and I was leading our upcoming 6th graders. And we were talking about who are the people that you most enjoy talking with. And I had your younger child in my group, and we were going around and they were naming, who they like to share and talk with the most. And one of the other leaders in our group said it was like their spouse or their mom or something like that. And I was like, yes, it would be my husband or this kiddo's mom, which was your child. He laughed about that and thought that was sweet. Anyway, but yeah, so you have certain people that you just have that kind of connection with, and it's going to be very few.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like of the 4 of these, if you were to try to map it out, that's the one that you could quickly and easily like attach names to.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones you probably couldn't, but this is the one you could be like, yes, I can name these people.
Count on your
one
fingers.
hand. Yes,
totally.
Who falls into that category.
Totally. And then you have another category of people who you have a high trust with, but low compatibility. So these are people that you may not have a lot in common with, but they're reliable. And like, I know we find this in the church a lot.
Yes.
It's like we can be in small groups with people who we may not have naturally found ourselves being friends with just through interests, but we have a care for each other and a trust with each other to where we want a lot of those people in our life. Like, I want there to be lots of people in my life who I'm kind to and I care about. And it doesn't matter who they are, where they came from, what they do for their job or their interests or their hobbies. But like, I care about you. A lot of my coworkers, like,
yes,
we have, we may not enjoy the same things on the weekends, but we can trust and rely on each other. So
I think in this category for me is where a lot of people who are not at the same life stage as me fall, because that is so much of what I have in common with the people who are in that high trust, high compatibility section. But this is where I get a lot of wisdom from people too. And I can pour wisdom into other people because I have people in this category who are my mom's age all the way to like in their 20s, but I care about really deeply. And this is I want there to be a lot of people in this group.
Yes, and I think a lot of dance parents I end up connecting with on this level, because just because our kids all love dance doesn't mean we all love dance,
Right.
But, and so sometimes, we're all in the same space and we have a mutual care for each other and each other's kids, even if we would have totally different interests
Mhm.
outside of this.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So that's find those people. Those are healthy people to have around that you feel like you can have real conversations with. Those are the people I end up praying with on dance competition weekends.
Mhm.
I just care about you. Another one, so if they have high compatibility but low trust. So these are going to be people that are really fun, you have a lot of fun with, but they are superficial connections,
Mhm.
You wouldn't want to share your secrets with these people. So a lot of times, and I've had to tell my kids this, a lot of your dance friends may be this for you.
Mhm.
You love doing dance together and you love, the same things. You're interested in the same things. You have fun together. But you have to be careful about how much you share with these people, because don't have they're not trustworthy necessarily.
And I think that kids have to figure this out. I mean, I love this little quadrant matrix thing and how it just lays things out so clearly. But these things exist, obviously, and we know they do, but it's hard to name them. And so sometimes our kids, especially when they hit that junior age, the tween age, are just learning that your friends do fall into different categories. Like, everybody's not your best friend anymore, like they were when you were younger. And this is sometimes something that can be a little sticky to navigate.
Sure. So, in the context of us doing dance as adults, I do definitely see a lot of people in our dance context that would fit into this
Yes.
category. That we could cheer for each other's kids. We are excited about what we're doing together and it's fun, but our conversations stay surface
Mhm.
because I just don't know. I haven't built that trust with them yet.
Right.
And it might not be that they're untrustworthy.
Sure.
We just haven't crossed to that layer yet
Mhm.
with some
And
of
you
these.
may or may not ever.
True. And then finally, the last category would be low trust and low compatibility. These would be, we call them steer clear. And there should be very few people in this category. So I will say, it's pretty obvious what this is. These are the people that you're we don't like the same things. We don't have the same values. And also, I don't think I can trust you. Now, if you find yourself walking through life and thinking the majority of the people in this context seem to be steer clears, it's worth doing some self
Mhm.
examination. Is it me?
Right.
Am I just afraid of people?
Mhm.
Am I maybe there's something that has hurt me in the past and I'm scared to be vulnerable with people, and so I'm nervous about trusting people, or I'm nervous about connecting with people in some way. That might be worth me examining. There's also a possibility that you're in a context where there is just a very toxic culture and it's
It's not
everybody
you.
everybody are steer clears because there is it is not a match for me at all. And if that's the case, you might want to ask, do we belong in this culture? And if you're steering clear of all the parents and all the leaders in this culture, do you want your kid exposed to that world? So if you're my kid loves this and I'm dropping them off and they're doing the thing, but I need to steer clear of all these people, it's but you're gonna put your kid in with the people that you don't
Yeah.
trust? It's worth asking those kinds of questions. If you go to another context, it's the same thing again, the context, same thing again, hard conversation, it might be you,
Yeah.
And there have been some subtle ways in my life that I've had to go, it is weird that I have this one thing that is hard for me no matter where I go.
Yeah.
And I go, what is that telling me about
About
me?
myself. Yeah. That, man, that is
Yes.
not fun to unpack, but
Yes.
sometimes you have to do it. You have to go there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, because I do believe that it's worth having friendships in these contexts.
Absolutely.
And so, either we're going to find a context where we trust and we're willing to make friendships with the right people,
Mhm.
not everybody, but with the right people, or we need to maybe find a different context to be in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So,
That's so good. I love that. Okay, well, one other angle that I would love for us to talk about is you and I both kind of work in an environment where with me being a teacher and you were a teacher and leading kids ministry, we're in a leadership position in our jobs where people bring their kids to us for different things. And sometimes those people who are dropping their kids off resonate with us, or they kind of know things about us just because of our positions and who we are, and they want to become our friends. And there are sometimes parameters we have to put in place because we are professionals in our jobs and things like that. But I know for both of us, we kind of have the overlap of our kids are also in this space where we work too, and that becoming a factor in there. So, Beth, what have you experienced in teaching or in leading kids ministry where you have had people who want to be friends with you, and kind of how have you navigated that and what have you learned?
Yeah, and it's cool because I started teaching when I was 22 and I didn't have kids. And already though, like I would have people that would connect with me. Even
Mhm.
when so I've watched that full arc of that. And it does definitely change when you have kids intertwined in it as well. But I know like early on, I would have times that like I would be invited to come have dinner at someone's house, or I would be invited to come to an event that, my kids were involved in, or a graduation party or things like that. And I think I held it at that stage of like, I'm not going to be able to go to everything.
Right.
But I can do for a few what I wish I could do for all, because I really did care about the people in my context. And I think I used some of the same parameters that we've already talked about. I mean, like, there were people that I got weirdness from,
Mhm.
and I sensed a little bit of this one might be a steer clear and I might need to give some time and feel that out a little bit more. But I'd say the vast majority of the time, it was totally healthy and wonderful and like awesome. And this is what's really wild because I'm evidently getting old. I have kids that I taught when they were 9, 10, 11 years old, and they now have little kids in my ministry at our church.
Their ministry grandkids.
Yes, yes. And I have, they share. A big thing is I was just really always really intentional about investing. I used to do this thing when I was teaching where I would take my honor roll kids at the end of the first semester, and we would do like a girls' night out and a boys' night out, because that's all that myself and my then boyfriend, who is now my husband, could fit in our cars. And we would go to like a basketball game or a gymnastics meet, because we have a lot of sporting events in the area where we live that we can do like that.
That's so
And
fun.
and those kids talk about that now, and they are in their 30s. And like, like they remember that from when they were 10 years old, that like, and those parents remembered that. And I remember when my grandmother passed away, a couple of the moms from the classes that I was teaching, they like planned meals and brought them to my house. And it was just me and my husband. We didn't have kids. Like, they were coming and caring for me. I mean, that
Mhm.
was genuine and authentic,
Yeah.
and it was just like natural and good. But anyway, as time has progressed and being in my ministry context, I will say when my kids were like preschool age, we would get invited to every single birthday party in our church that had kids that age, just because everybody knew us.
Mhm.
And I cannot be at a birthday party every day.
Nor can you buy that many gifts.
Right. And so we had to kind of just sift through, like, and I really didn't give like preference to any certain
Sure.
people. It was just like, if it works and we can go, we'll do it. I love that I can be honored to be a part
Mhm.
of your life and your family's life. And of course, like some parents I just end up getting to know more and resonate more with, and we become friends, and it blossoms into other things because it's like the Lord planted us in that context
Yeah.
to meet each other. And I don't want to discount that. I
Yeah.
don't want to be like, well, we're not allowed to be friends because I'm in that context or anything like that. So, but I use my same parameters and like sifting through what's appropriate and healthy. And I can usually tell. I mean, like, even we have a lot more people now. It's grown a lot, a lot, a lot. So I sometimes now will have people who will like, they'll add me on social media. And then shortly after that, they're like sending me messages work related in that
Mhm.
context because they don't have my phone number. And that to me is a little bit of a
A red flag.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That it's like if they're asking me about work things through that context frequently. It's
Well,
not like a
yeah.
just random like this had there was I needed you in this moment. It's like unurgent matters. Like, do you know if we're planning this thing for months from now? Kind of stuff like that. That like doesn't really matter.
It feels like a workaround from taking appropriate channels because I know that there are ways that people can get in touch with you that aren't sending you messages on social media that are public
Yeah,
knowledge.
email. You can email me.
Email, right. So when it feels like
They're trying to get a quick access to me
yes, that everyone doesn't
in a
have.
closer way. That to me makes me feel a little bit guarded. And so I might slow down my approach
Yeah.
of connecting with people when they are doing those kinds of things. It doesn't mean that I like rule them out forever, but I might just slow things down a little bit. But yeah, but most of the time I find that it's very healthy and good and life giving. It's the same thing. It's like these are the places that we're spending time
Mm,
with people to build relationships. There's no reason to feel like we can't know these people well and be friends with them.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, when I first started teaching, I was freshly 21 because I finished college early and I finished high school a little bit early. I don't know why I did that. That was not wise of me. But I was freshly 21 and I was extremely guarded in my work life versus my personal life. Almost like I was two different people, for a lack of a better way to explain that,
mhm.
because I was so fearful being that young that if the parents and the families of the kids that I taught got to know me and didn't like me for some reason, that my job would be at jeopardy.
Mm.
I have yet to unpack why I felt that way. I have obviously matured and grown past all of this, but for several years, that was very much my mindset. I even was like fearful of going to Target and running into a parent of one of my kids at school and them like thinking the shorts I had on were too short. I don't know. Who hurt me? I have no idea why I felt this way. I really think it was just immaturity and being the age that I was and coming out of college, but then feeling like very stressed that I was the grown up in the room as a
Mhm.
teacher at that age. And so I kept everyone at arm's distance, even the kids in my class. I was hesitant to talk about my personal life. I don't even think that I told them that I had pets or that I was dating anyone. Like they only knew me as their teacher at school. And I basically wanted them to think that I did not exist outside of those four walls. And it wasn't and I think it came from intimidation, like, almost the same thing as those more experienced moms coming and trying to have relationships with me in the dressing room and me thinking, "Oh my gosh, is it because I look like I'm a train wreck and you don't know, like, I look like I need rescuing?" It's because I'm an Enneagram 3. You know how this is. If you're an Enneagram person, you know what that means. But because the parents of my students were older than me by 10 years or so, I was just intimidated by them, and I was so afraid that they were gonna think I was a fraud or something like that, but it wasn't until, 3rd year teaching this was even after I got married, like, it took years of seeing that no one was out to get me, I did not need to be afraid of these people. My 2nd year of teaching is when I got engaged and got married, and we got married in November, so it was the middle of the school year, and my room mom planned and threw me a surprise wedding shower at school. Like, I had no idea. She worked it out with my principal. She got me out of the room for something during my planning period. They set up a whole thing while my kids were at their resource classes. Because it was November, they gave me an ornament shower. So I had all these precious Christmas tree ornaments. And like, even that wasn't enough for me to feel like people weren't out to get me. And it wasn't until my 3rd year of teaching, I had changed grade levels and I had the younger sibling of a little girl who I had taught previously. And it was our first like full year being married. And the mom of this kid that I'd had before from a past year had like a cake business. And she surprised me and she had made this beautiful little heart-shaped cake with like these elaborate fondant decorations and all of this stuff for Valentine's Day because it was our first like we had been married a whole year. We'd passed our first anniversary, and she just like did this kind thing for me for no, it wasn't Christmas. It wasn't into the school year. Like she went out of her way. She probably spent hours and hours making this cake. And that was the first thing that started to like chip away at those walls that I thought, this person genuinely cares about me. And there was no ulterior motive here. There was no, I want you to do this for my kid. I mean, her kid was precious. Like, this was just out of kindness. And it was not until that point that I started to realize that I did not have to be afraid of friendships in this context and what that looked like. So, anyways, fast forward now that I have my own kids who have gone through, being at the school where I work and their friends also being kids that I teach that I see all the time, like at birthday parties, at school events, at,
the neighborhood pool.
Neighborhood pool. Yes. Like I can sit by my neighborhood pool and like 8 kids come up and know me and speak to me. And I'm like in a swimsuit. Like 22-year-old me would have turned to a liquid and ceased to exist if that had happened. But I really had, same as you, just the parameters of as I'm chatting with these parents at Meet the Teacher or at our school Christmas play or at a birthday party, like what are our conversations centering around? Are you asking me about school stuff because you're trying to get like some kind of insider knowledge about things? Or are you asking me about me and my life and my kids and trying to get to know me on a genuine level? And like, those are the things that obviously I value and know that those are trustworthy people and it's okay to let them into these parameters and like letting kids come play at my house or sleep over and then I'm going to go teach them at school on Monday. Like all stuff that I just never in a million years as a 20-something-year-old would have been comfortable with that I have really had to grow into over time and knowing that I am able to discern what the healthy relationships are that are out there in this context and which ones aren't and knowing when it's okay to let these people in, even though I do have a professional role in their child's life, but that both things can coexist in a way that is okay.
Yes, because we only live one life.
Yes.
I mean, like, I think I learned that a long time ago that, like, trying to compartmentalize our life is just going to create such a level of loneliness.
Absolutely.
We have one life. And so it's okay if things bleed over, but you use the same boundaries you use when making friendships outside of your work context. So that's just to say, like, for all of us, I think, I know for me in my work context, as people are wanting to get to know me, it's like I let it be a slow development of friendship and like, build trust like you always do with anyone, but not being afraid of those things. But in the same way, when I'm approaching other contexts, I want to be mindful that the people leading those contexts. So for us, for dance, like our dance teachers, our directors, all those kinds of things, I want to be respectful of them.
Of course.
Sifting through all these kinds of people too and not overstepping and being,
and also
insisting on special treatment or trying to, it's like, I'm like, let me just be me. And like,
yes.
If we connect, we connect. And if we don't connect, it's okay.
Well, and also not getting personally offended when you are kept at arm's length or you're not received with warmth that maybe you would give in that situation.
Because they
just
can't do for everyone.
Right. And just knowing that they're trying to navigate this too and they don't, all I can do is be me and show my intentions that I am a safe person and not trying to be weird about something that isn't weird or have a conversation with you about a dance thing when we are not in that context, when it's not appropriate. Like I can just continue to show that I'm trustworthy and how they respond is how they respond, knowing that they're navigating all of this and not taking it personally.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the same way, it's like in my job, like I a lot of times it's like, I just can't for everyone.
Right.
And there's probably some people who want to be close to me because they connect with me through our job and they resonate with me in some way. And I haven't been able to give myself to them as much as they would probably desire. And I don't know, I'm not picturing anyone in particular right now. I don't
Sure.
know who they are, but it's probably not anything personal or anything that I hold against in any of them. It's just literally a capacity thing. You know, we only have so many hours of the day and our own families and all those kinds of things.
Well, and like all relationships take work and management. So the more
Mhm.
that you let into that higher quadrant, I mean, yeah, like you said, that's just you only have so much time and capacity to give to people.
Yeah. So that's just to say, like, bringing it back to us being like parents and leaders in these competitive kids activity contexts, it's like we're going to have friends horizontally with the people that we're sharing and we're walking
Mhm.
alongside. We want to have some cross generational stuff. And then between leaders and the people participating, there may be some friendships at varying levels of depth. And it's like, just let it be what it is.
Yeah.
Like, and I think for everybody to be willing to give themselves to those people of peace that they connect with, but also being willing to just be aware of where there's trust,
Mhm.
that kind of thing
For sure.
is good. So, okay.
Well, Beth, that was an excellent summary, by the way, of our conversation.
Thank you.
Great.
Well, full disclosure, we sometimes outline these conversations in a lot of detail, but we felt like this was one that would be more natural if we just literally talked.
Yeah.
So you have listened to us just
Have a conversation.
unscripted, like unoutlined, have a conversation about this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's the realest version of putting a mic on our random conversations that you
But
would get.
A plus on that summary. That was like college paper. I have wrapped it up. My final statement level. Great job. But since it is not really about dance, what is it about for you this week?
For me, it's just about just continuing to just soak up the summer memories with my kids and the fact that we're home a little bit more. I am shifting into like my crazy time work wise. And I'm like literally 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be very unpresent with them.
Yeah.
And so I'm in these 2 weeks of they have gotten me. It has taken years they've been trying, but they've gotten me into tracking through the chronological Marvel movies. We're watching one every
Well,
night right now.
okay.
And so
What are you on?
we just did Avengers.
Okay.
The first
The first one.
one. Yeah. So
We did this 2 summers ago.
well, I tried to get like they were watching some stuff. I think it was when like maybe the WandaVision or something came out a
Mhm.
few years ago. They were all watching it and I was like, I'm not a Marvel person, but because now that the kids have gotten into it with my husband, I'm going to try to be. So I like tried holding myself up and watching it and I kept like falling asleep. And so,
That's me with Star Wars.
so I was
Just
like,
can't do it.
I think I need to sit in the room with them. Now, what that means is I have to listen to my 9-year-old like commentate through the whole thing and my 12-year-old, honestly. They both just
I
like
bet they both have some hot takes.
it is. I'm like, this is like watching Mystery Science Theater. You remember that
Oh,
thing
yes.
where they had like robots,
The little
that come in
robots
through
and
the
the
whole.
and the one human man.
Yes, like
Yes.
that's what I feel like I'm watching while we're watching, and I'm like, no, but y'all know this plot, but I don't. I'm trying to pay attention to
Yes.
what's going on.
Let me listen.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's one of those things of like be interested in what they're interested in, even though I wouldn't have chosen it. They are interested in it, and so I'm like, I'm gonna just be in it and enjoy what you enjoy, and we can make this a thing.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
love
what we're
that.
doing.
That's awesome.
What's it about for you right now?
Well, so I am feeling the summer slipping quickly away from me, and I'm about to like semi literally go off grid for like 10 days when I'm in Alaska pretty soon here next week. But so I'm feeling like all the things that I normally take care of in the summer, I need to do right now.
Mhm.
So that thing for me this week has been trying to book dance competition hotels. Like we have
I've got all but one because I can't.
yes,
There's one I
well,
can't.
I am now in that situation. So that's what I did all this past week and I also try to use my credit card points to book someone I can. So I'm not having to pay out of pocket and I kind of, finagle it around a little bit. But this whole week has been about finding deals on hotels and calling hotels and which ones have their room block open, even though it may not be published yet.
You got to ask the right
you
questions.
just call and ask. And if you call one day and the person doesn't know what you're talking about, you just call back the next day and hope you get somebody else who's a little bit more in the know about things. But I think I successfully have most of them, all but the one that I can't.
Okay, well, that makes me feel better. I'm like,
Yeah.
did you get a hold of the right person and I
No.
just haven't?
No,
Okay.
I did not. So, yes, I've been trying to, like, take care of all of those things, and
It's
then
that MLK weekend one that you're
yes.
yeah, I can't get that one
Can't
yet.
get that one, and that yeah, that I don't like that because I always, like, get all those booked up really early, and I'm afraid once we get back into back to school mode, I'll forget, and then it's gonna end up like Christmas break, and I realize, "Oh, no, I don't have this hotel booked," and we've talked about this before, but I really like staying at the hotel where the convention is taking place just for convenience, so I do
Me too.
not like waiting to the last minute and getting stuck at, like, a hotel that's nearby and having to walk, like, I
Well,
wanna
and we've had people get
snow, like trying to trek a
and
mile
not
in
able
the
to
snow
get there.
because their car won't get there because there's ice everywhere. Yeah, I'm scared. So, anyways, that's what it's been about. But I also, in the same way, I couldn't decide which of these two, so I'm going to say both. It's also been about Hamilton, the musical, for me this week. We have
You got one kid that's all in on that.
well, it's that and Six, the Broadway musical. She just likes all Broadway, anything. But it was brought to my attention that at one of these events we're going to this fall, Hamilton will be playing at this convention center the night before our convention starts. I am debating on if I surprise her, but it's not her birthday and it's too early for Christmas. But if I just say YOLO and drop some money on some Hamilton tickets because we have like a performing arts center in town and it's the week of 4th of July as we're recording this and they showed Hamilton on like an outdoor movie thing and we went and she has a costume where she dressed up as a Schuyler sister with two of her friends and there was dramatic reenactments of scenes of the movie and loud singing and I was really debating between are we entertaining people or are we irritating people and when should I step in and tell her to sit down and be quiet but
Is she still the age that it still counts as cute?
I think she squeaked in that it still counted as cute. We had several people come up to us afterwards and say that watching them was like their favorite thing about it. So I was like, okay, we hopefully didn't annoy anybody, but
Because
yes.
if your older daughter had been doing it, that would have been funny.
She would never have.
I
She would have been
know.
so embarrassed. But yes, that would not have been cute. That would have been obnoxious teenager. Well, what's funny is one of her friends who was there, not in a costume, but equally Hamilton obsessed and was singing and dancing around with him, has an older brother that's about the same age as my teenager. And he was mortified about what was happening around him. It was so funny to watch. So yes, that has been my week this week. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for our conversation on adult friendships. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, please share our podcast with other people. That helps us get out there and more people to hear our conversations. And we always want to hear from you. So we have an email that you can email us at notreallyaboutdance@gmail.com. And that is also our Instagram handle, notreallyaboutdance. So follow us there and we can't wait to be back with you next time. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.